Hello and welcome back to Tachikawa. You are listening to Sakamichi Nights. My name is Matthew Boynton and I'm joined as always by Daniel Bellamy. How you doing today, Dan?
Good. Doing well.
What's been the best thing about your day today?
I have had a couple delicious beers.
Okay.
It's the best thing about most of my days.
It is only 9 a.m., but I guess you start your
Just a
day
couple.
early.
Yeah. I have no response to that. That's a fair accusation.
Exciting news this week that we are joined by another extraordinary guest.
Yeah.
Dan, do you want to introduce our guest for this week?
Our guest this week is Clare. You do a lot of stuff. You are American Blonde Ale on Twitter? American Blonde on Twitter.
Yes, American Blonde Ale. I go by Clare Tom Allen. American Blonde Ale on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of it.
Wow.
All over social
Great.
media.
You have a blog as well.
Yes, make every day hoppy. It's kind of my tagline, my hashtag on everything, and that's what I'm in Japan doing, making life hoppy.
Right.
Sound like Dan with his 9 a.m. beers.
Yep, make every breakfast hoppy. That's my hashtag for breakfast.
Dan, you have some questions prepared.
You know, we did this on the last episode. We had a couple friends of ours in, and we thought it would be, interesting or useful to ask every guest we have in the same 4 kind of basic craft beer questions.
Okay,
all right, you ready for these?
Yes.
First one, what's the first craft beer you remember drinking?
Captain Lauren's Tears of Green.
Okay.
Very specific. That's like the beer that got me into craft beer.
Was that the first craft beer you ever drank, or was that's just the
I don't
first
know if it was
one
the
that really
first
stuck
one I
with
ever
you?
drank.
Okay.
I was going to a bar. I knew the bartender. I had a fake ID. It's kind of where I could get into, and it's one of the bars where you order by number. And I was very nervous. You know what I mean? I'm not going to order something fancy. And I was like, number 19. And I would continuously order it because I didn't want to stray from what I knew.
Right.
And that
You've
was the
done
beer
that one successfully.
that was the beer that I was like, I know that I like this. It got me really into it. And I have yet to be to the brewery itself, even though it's in New York. But Captain Lauren's Tears of Green is my bread and butter.
Okay. Captain Lawrence is imported here, I believe.
What kind of beer is Captain Lawrence Tears of Green?
It's an IPA.
Right.
I'm no longer an IPA girl, but that was my roots.
That was the gateway into craft beer.
Yes.
Nice. All right. What is your local craft beer hangout nowadays?
Sekatog Brewery is where I work, so I'm there fairly often. But
Okay.
our tagline is actually pretty good beer because every time people come in, they take a sip, they go, "Oh wow, this is actually pretty good."
Why are they surprised that your beer is good?
Because we're not in like a warehouse kind of district. We're in a very family-friendly neighborhood, like in a village.
Okay.
So people just assume it's kind of for show and not
Sure.
actually pretty good.
Right.
So that's our thing. So that's where I spend most of my time. If not in the city, I hang out at Torch and Crown. I like that place a lot.
Okay. The place where you work, Sekatog?
Sekatog.
Sekatog. Does
Yes.
it have a specific style, or you do pretty much everything there?
Our head brewer Ken is very into double dried hop, double New England IPAs. It's his main thing. Very, very specific, but he really likes New England IPAs.
Right. Excellent. What is the best or most memorable beer you've had recently?
Recently, I don't know if it's recently. The most memorable beer I had was a 12% like toasted marshmallow ale. It wasn't even like a sour or anything, from Courtyard Brewery in Louisiana.
Okay.
And it was a one-off. They have a very, very small barrel system. Never to be seen again, this beer. I message them. I DM them all the time. They think it's funny. I'm like, I need it back. I want you guys to can it. I was like, I will pay so much money for this. It was just such a light mouthfeel, and 12%. It just delicious.
Wow. So are they going to bring it back? At some
No,
point,
they
they'll
just-
just want
they-
you to
they just-
stop badgering them.
I'm sure if I tell them, listen, guys, you have 7 months. I'm visiting on this day. I beg of you, please. I'm sure they'd hopefully do something, but we'll see when that day comes.
Okay. Good luck.
We can ask the Sakamichi Nation to start an online harassment campaign for this brewery.
Yeah.
Listen, they're big on Twitter. They'll come back. They'll fight you on Twitter.
Once we dox a few of them.
Both of our listeners will be emailing them.
Very aggressively. Have you ever poured a beer down the sink? And if so, why? We don't name breweries. You know,
Okay, I was
that's
going to say.
But
I had received a package. I'll call out Tavor. I don't know if you're familiar with Tavor. I'd receive a package from them. They're based out of Seattle, and they, distribute for breweries who don't have distribution themselves across state lines. And I'd receive a beer. I hadn't had it too long, maybe 2-3 days. Opened it up, just chunky. It was not great.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Right.
was something was wrong. Something didn't work. I was very upset about it. Immediately poured that one down.
Right.
And I was filming a beer review, and I did it. And I was like, I was like, I can't even fake my way through this one.
Right. So something had spoiled.
Had to have.
Right,
It was just
okay.
like chunky and thick, and
Chunk's generally a bad sign.
Yeah, not really what you want to go for.
Is there any chunky style of beer? There isn't that I'm aware of.
Well, let me say, this is a Canadian thing, but in Canada, I understand that there is a drink called Clamato. Are you familiar with Clamato?
I am not.
It's tomato juice mixed with the brine from a jar of a can of clams.
Okay. Yep, that sounds disgusting.
Clamato. I can see the look of delight on both of your faces here.
Absolutely not.
And I think I have read that people do mix that with beer sometimes. So, you know, mixing tomato juice and beer is a thing. I don't recommend it.
Sure.
Is it called a red eye? Is that what that is?
Is that a red eye, maybe? I mean, you could do a michelada, right?
Right, tomato juice and beer is a thing. So
Yeah.
why not clamato and beer? And who knows, a few of those clams might slip out of the can and into the clamato juice and then into the beer.
I mean, there's oyster stouts, so you're just going to mix another shellfish, another type of beer.
I feel like you guys are talking yourselves into it, and I don't
quite
think
the
this is the place we
smorgasbord.
want to be.
I'm team oyster stout, not team clam anything.
Right, okay.
Oyster
So
stout,
we're
I'm already
backing away
familiar
from
with,
the
we're
Clamato.
backing away from that. Also, I don't believe tomatoes belong in beer, or any alcohol. Bloody Mary's against the whole thing. I don't think tomatoes have a place.
Tomatoes are delicious, but tomato juice is revolting. I will agree with you on that.
Okay, yeah.
Does oyster stout have actual oysters in it, or is it the oyster shells that they use?
The shells.
Yeah. What if you actually put an oyster in it?
So like one oyster in the bottom.
Yeah.
Just hangs out down there.
Slips right on down there.
Then you'd have chunky beer. And then we're back to square one, pouring it out.
Yeah, true.
There is a brewery here in Japan, Beer Brain, who once made a gose with uni in it. Do you know what uni is?
do
A
not.
Japanese delicacy. It's a sea urchin roe. You might see it in a sushi place. It kind of looks like something that a Klingon might eat, but they put some of this. I don't know if it made it all the way to the final beer, but it was a gose, which is supposed to be a little bit salty, and uni is salty. It comes from the sea, so it is salty. They used that to salt the beer. And I have to say, I tried it, and it's one of the few times that I was disappointed that I couldn't taste more uni in something. You know, it just tastes salty. Where's the uni, guys? I want more uni in this beer.
You can't put something like that in and not have it show up in the final product.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like that Bonito beer. I'm disappointed this doesn't taste more fishy.
Right.
Go back
And
to
then
the
once I
drawing
can
board.
taste it, I'm disappointed I can taste it.
It's bad either way. Well, this is the land of exciting Japanese drinks that awaits you. You've got Bonito Flakes in beer, and you've got uni in beer.
I've had Bonito Flakes before. There's a place in the East Village that I went to a few years ago. I had that. I had a matcha IPA, and I had a beer with blue yams.
Okay.
All right.
What's
I've
a
never
blue
seen
yam?
a blue... I have no idea. I thought you guys would enlighten me on what a blue yam is. I had at this point...
I feel like that was one of those risky Googles, right? You shouldn't Google blue yam.
That's why it was like, I think 2018 or 2019, I went down to this place, in the East Village. They invited me to some Japanese beer bar, and they wanted me to try some things out, and they were just giving me cans, and I was like, this is interesting, blue yams. This and a matcha IPA was delicious. They served that with ice cream and then pour the beer over it, and I was like, beautiful.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was great. And then Bonito Flakes was in one.
Yeah, sometimes there are Japanese foods that I know the Japanese name for, but then when they're in foreign countries, non-Japanese countries. I'm being very Japanese
Yeah,
there,
you've
right?
been
There's
here a while.
Japan and there is Gaikoku. When they're translated into English, I will have no idea what that is, right? Because I always refer to it, because I've only ever encountered it here in Japan. I don't know what the English word for it is, so it's possible that blue yam might be like Satsuma
something we know,
Imo or something. It's got an English name and we don't know it. Anyway, let's Google that one later. Image search.
Incognito
Off.
browser.
It's incognito mode.
So what are you doing in Japan? You have this online presence. You've said people send you beer. You do a lot of beer stuff. What are you here for?
I'm on kind of like an eat, pray, love type of journey.
Okay. Is it a drink, pray, love kind of thing? Though?
Drink, pray, love.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I just turned 26. I figured there's no time as ever. Everyone has a bucket list, but why are we waiting till we're older to complete things on our bucket list? Why
Sure.
not just do them now? So I was at, I don't know if you're familiar with Blue Point. They're Anheuser-Busch owned. They're one of like the larger breweries on Long Island. They had a cask fest, and it's the biggest one in North America. Very big deal. I'm having a great time, hanging around. And there was one brewery from Japan. I ended up getting drunk and coming home and being like, why don't I just go to Japan? Why did I have to drink that there? So I had booked a flight kind of tipsy. And now I'm here, but that's kind of the journey that led here. And I asked, did anyone want to come with me, anything? And none of my friends did. And I said, well, that's not going to stop me from experiencing life. I'll just come to Tokyo by myself.
Nice.
And do my drink, pray, love.
What was the Japanese brewery?
I wish I could tell you. I know that I have like a screenshot somewhere, but I, once again, was pretty drunk. And I was like, wait, this is so cool. And then I had those Japanese beers in the East Village before. And I figured, all right, well, let me just wing it and fly to Tokyo.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you tweeted about coming to Japan, and then Virginia Beer Company replied to your tweet and said, come check Sakamichi Brewing out. So that cropped up on our Twitter feed, and then we got in touch with you to have you come in here. So thank you so much for coming and seeing us. You only have a limited time. You're on a whirlwind tour.
Yes.
You're here for
I'm here for 6 days. 6 days, which I know everyone says, like, oh, that's not enough time, and I get that, but I will be back, as I always am, to everything I do. And I, as someone who's obviously very passionate about the craft beer community, anytime someone reaches out to me and even wants to get a drink and it's just a follower or something like that, I make it a point and an effort to try to do that. I explore a lot of different cities. I probably go, there's 12 months in a year. I probably go on like 12 to 15 trips per year, either across the states or international. And I make it a point to meet up with either brewery owners, people who work in the beer space, people who just follow me or I follow them and just connect. And I think craft beer is more about community than it is sometimes the liquid itself. So I make it a big effort to do that.
Nice. I saw on your blog that you went to Cleveland.
Yes.
Thanks for that. Cleveland has great beer, but you also went to a Browns game. Sorry about that.
We
great
did.
beer,
we
bad
went
football.
we didn't go to the Browns game itself. We did a tailgate. And then we hung out.
That's the best part of Browns games.
We did
I
like
think.
the Flats is the area.
Sure.
Yeah, my best friend from high school went to Ohio State and then met a guy and stayed out there.
Okay.
So now when I want to go visit her, I got to go out to Cleveland.
Right. Very affordable.
Oh,
Cleveland.
Yes.
Great
yes.
symphony orchestra, great museums, terrible weather.
I'm sure there are always plenty of tickets available to those Browns games as
There
well.
aren't. They sell out.
That's all there is
It's
to do,
shocking.
to go to
They're
sports games.
terrible, and they sell out every year. They raise the prices every year, and they sell out. And the team is awful. It's bizarre. We need relegation in American sports.
The kind of content that people tune into this podcast for. This is going to be a Cleveland Browns.
You want to know more about Cleveland
slam
and
podcast.
Northeastern Ohio? Yeah, we can talk about it. How has Japan treated you so far? You've only been here
literally 24 hours.
Right. Okay. So what's been going on? Have you had any surprises? Anything not weird things happening, but what surprised you? Your expectation of Japan was something, and the realism.
I was told it was
Japan
going
is
to be
different.
like New York on steroids.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just because I'm so used to just living in New York City and being a New York City girl. It hasn't felt like it's been on steroids. I was at the Shibuya crossing, and I didn't even realize what it was until 10 minutes after. I was somewhere trying to figure out where, and I was it's supposed to be one of the biggest crossings in the world, and I was oh, that just felt like I was just walking downtown. Right. I was like, this is crazy. Obviously, it's super cool. Everyone's dodging different directions. The public transportation is amazing. That's something I'm just very thankful for as someone who firmly believes in public transportation, especially as someone who drinks all the time. Sure. Public transportation in a city with public transportation is very important to me. Everyone's been super friendly, even if they don't speak English, and I try to ask a question or show them a map to try to figure out where I'm going. They're very polite and bow to me and say sorry and keep walking on, which in New York people just put a hand to your face and are go away. But no, it's been fantastic so far, and even though I'm only here for 6 days, I know it's going to be a great 6 days.
Right. The only drawback, maybe not the only drawback, but one of the drawbacks of public transportation in Japan when it comes to drinking lots of beer is that it stops at night, relatively early as well. It would be great if there was one train an hour all night, right? And I feel like people are respectful enough in Japan that you wouldn't have to worry about people damaging things or graffiti or things like that. So I feel like it's something they could do, but it just doesn't exist here. The trains finish it, depending on what line you're on, 11:30 or midnight or 12:30 kind of timing. It's a little frustrating sometimes.
I mean, yeah, in New York, it's not great. I mean, they change at night, so you're drunk and you're trying to get on your train and then it changes and you're well, now it's express, and I didn't know it was an express because you're drinking, you don't think about it. But at least there is a train. Right. And at least you're going in the right direction. You're going somewhere where you need to go. And I also think it's interesting, the women-only train cars in the mornings, and I think also at night. So I was it's just interesting. It's an interesting little side thing that the city does that New York will never implement nor have the structure to implement.
Yeah, right.
I went to visit New York once and I had to take the train from the airport to my friend's apartment. He was living in Brooklyn. And this is one of my first New York experiences, other than almost getting run over because I was looking the wrong way when I crossed the road. A homeless guy crashed his shopping trolley full of garbage into me. And because I'm British, I said, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry." And he went, "You better be sorry." So, yeah, welcome to New York.
Yeah. That's a great slice of New York. I'm glad you got
that
right
happened,
off the
and then
bat.
I almost got run over by a yellow cab, like almost immediately afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, this is it. This is the experience.
This is
It's what I came here for.
That's another thing I noticed is that people don't cross unless the green light says they can. Even if there's no traffic coming, people wait. And I crossed once, and then people gave me a look, and I was like, okay, I guess we're not doing that. There was not a car in sight, and I was like, I'm just going to...
You got to be careful with that, though. If you step out into the road, everyone around you is going to assume that the light is green.
They're not going to look up from their phones.
No, they're also going to start crossing just because they
go.
think that it's time to go.
Yeah, see, at home, if I'm standing in the I'm standing on a walk, and if it doesn't matter if there's another car coming, I'm going to walk. Then 3 people try to dodge a car that's coming before you. We like to play Frogger at home. We play Frogger. It's an entertainment aspect for us.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
I had a look at your blog, so I understand how you got into beer.
Yes.
But how did you get into beer blogging? How did you make the transition from I enjoy drinking this to I need to tell people about how I enjoy drinking this?
Okay, so you saw my story. I started drinking kind of underage. It was the only place I could get into, craft beer bar. I started posting it on my personal Instagram, and at the time I was underage. My friends were like, "You're not going to get into college." They're like, "This is not how that works. You can't be publicly drinking underage." And I was like, "You guys are right. Let me just make a second account. That makes sense." Instead of just, saying, "You know what, you guys are correct. Let me just not do this." I had to push the envelope and make it a second account. And then I would just post and rate reviews. And obviously my reviews were terrible at the time. I had no idea what I was talking about. And even now, I'm not perfect. I can't drink something and say, "Oh, this is Belgian yeast and whatever." Yeah, but I made the second account, and then I started to gain followers on that. And I was like, wait, this is actually a fun community that I'm building. Because I didn't know at the time in college, I was then 2021, I didn't know any other women who were drinking craft beer as religiously as I was, or going to festivals or going to brewery, anniversary parties. So I started to build a community on Instagram, which was huge. And then I like writing more than anything else. Then I bought the domain and just started kind of writing whenever I felt like it. It's not all beer related at all, but it's fun for me and I enjoy it.
Cool. So you know a fair bit about beer. We got in touch with you through Virginia Beer Company. On this podcast, we usually drink a beer and then we talk about it a little bit. Do we review the beer on this podcast, Matthew?
Well, we have terrible reviews and we have no idea what we're talking about, right? So we should all feel right at home here. But no, we don't review the beer. We're not here to review the beer because if we're serving it or selling it here, of course it's good beer. We don't sell bad beer here. So we celebrate the beers. What is the beer that we're going to be celebrating today?
This week we're going to celebrate One Night in Tokyo, which is the Virginia Beer Company version of One Night in Tokyo.
Okay, good.
I thought you were going to say something, which is a collaboration we did with them. We had our version on tap before, and we just took delivery of the Virginia Beer Company version.
Excellent. I've been looking forward to this a lot. I've probably talked about this on the podcast before, but sometimes the name of a beer is so powerful that you just have to do it. And we were big fans of Virginia Beer Co. for a long time. Really liked their One Night in Place series. So One Night in Maine, One Night in Georgia, One Night in Tangiers, and so on. And so the name One Night in Tokyo was too good to miss out on. And so we managed to get in touch with them. We worked on this recipe together. It's a Berliner Weiss. So half wheat, half pills, a little bit of oats, just to keep the head on it a little bit so it doesn't sparkle like champagne too much. And then all of these use different fruits in them, fruit purees, which is a phrase that I find very difficult to say for some reason. And what could be more appropriate for the Tokyo version than yuzu? So it's a Berliner Weiss or a sour ale with a little bit of yuzu in it. Why don't we dive into it? All right, welcome back. It occurs to me that we might not have explained exactly what a yuzu is. Dan, you want to take that one away? What is a yuzu?
It's a Japanese citrus fruit.
Yep.
You want more than that?
I do. Keep going.
It's it's pretty strong flavor. It's kind of lemony, I think. You don't just eat them though, right? Nobody just eats a yuzu.
I don't think you could eat a yuzu.
It's going to be quite too citrusy for edibility.
So they have quite thick skin and not very much flesh or juice, and they have a lot of pectin in them. So the juice is also really thick and goopy. So the way we tend to use it is to just use the zest, or to squeeze out a little bit of the juice and mix it with hot water and sugar and stuff like that. Or to plonk it in the bath at New Year's time. And then try and throw it into the washing bucket from the other side of the room. Extremely good times. Anyway, that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this beer. The One Night in Tokyo Yuzu Sour Ale. This is the version made by Virginia Beer Co. And I was extremely excited to taste this, to see how it compared, how it was different or how it was similar to the version that we made here in Tokyo last year. Dan, you want to go first? What do you think of this beer?
I think this yuzu is can be a really sharp flavor. Like I said, it's a strong citrus. Like the acidity is quite strong in it, and I feel like this beer balances that really well. It's not over the top. It's much more subtle than I think yuzu normally comes across, and I think the base beer really grounds it really nicely and makes it much more easily drinkable than if you had a heavier hand with the yuzu. It would be quite sharp, I think. And I feel like this is really nice and easy drinking because it's so well balanced.
Crushable. Claire, what about you? What do you think of this beer?
Well, as someone who's literally never had a yuzu or heard of the fruit before this conversation, I would say I've had the base beer a few times in different things that Virginia Beer Company's done. I get a lot of power on the lemon zest and lemon peel. You're not getting the lemon itself or the yuzu itself. It would be more of a puckering. So it does have more the bitterness of the peel, but I really like it.
Good. That's an extremely good, well, I'm not going to say review, an extremely good celebration of this beer.
Yeah.
I think you're right that if I cast my memory back to the version that we made, I think this one does have a slightly more lemony twist to it. The yuzu is very aromatic and also quite bitter. And I think both of those things come through really nicely in this beer. And yuzu is absolutely one of my favorite flavors. And this is really just a celebration of that flavor. So I'm a big fan of this beer. It's also extremely refreshingly tart. I think they nailed the pH on this one. Yeah. It's really good. Is it good? Yes. Yes, it is good. Whenever we drink a beer on this show, we also like to pair it with something. So I'm going to spin this wheel of pairings to choose one of 8 categories. Although, of course, we can't have the 2 most recent ones. Dan, which were?
Activity and music.
All right, so it's not going to be either of those 2 things. Let's find out what it is going to be. Food or cuisine? All right, pretty basic. What food or style of food?
Let's roll it again.
You want to throw
food pairings? Everybody does food pairings. We've got Clare on. Let's have something different.
You have a dessert?
Oh, dessert specifically?
Yeah, why? Well, you could do appetizer, you could do dessert. You get very specific with your food pairings.
Okay.
I think we should listen to Claire.
All right.
Do a dessert pairing.
I'm team dessert, always.
Okay, dessert pairing. Let's go.
Okay, what's it going to be? Who wants to go first? What's your dessert pairing for this beer?
I'm thinking something coconutty, with the coconut flakes, you know what I mean? Maybe a little bit of chocolate. One of those cookies with the chocolate, dipped in chocolate with the coconut flakes. I don't know a name for them.
A Lamington?
I've never heard that, but possibly.
Okay.
But I'm thinking to pair well with the lemony zest, probably a chocolate and coconut to balance.
That does sound very delicious. We talk sometimes on this show about how the full experience of drinking the beer can really influence your enjoyment of it, right? So if you're sitting in a sun-dappled, warm Berlin beer garden, drinking one of these, that's going to be a really fun experience. It's really going to enhance the enjoyment of the beer. If you're eating your chocolate-dipped coconut cookie and drinking a yuzu sour ale, where would you like to be doing that?
Where would I be doing that? I feel like this would go well like a Vermont mountain ski weekend. I feel like this is a bundled in the cold kind of drink. I like to, it's weird. I like my stouts in the summer. I like my sours in the winter.
Okay.
I switch it up.
I can see that, definitely.
Yeah.
I've suggested in the past that it might be fun to serve some sour beers out of a slushy machine.
I'd love that.
I think this beer would go really well because it's quite tart. It's got quite a nice sharpness to it. While you're here in Japan, if you're looking for some summer foods, you want to mix it up. There is a summer snack that people enjoy at festivals called kakigori, shaved ice. Have you ever seen or heard of this?
I know shaved ice. I didn't know the Japanese version of it.
Right. So it's like a Mr. Slushy or something, except much nicer than that. They have a machine that shaves up a big block of ice into a bowl. And then usually at the festival, you're allowed to serve your own syrups as well. So you can go along the line and choose all the different syrups you want. I think this beer would go extremely well with the kakigori because it's quite sharp and very flavorful. And it would go quite nicely with the sort of the cool refreshingness of that. That's my dessert pairing.
Okay.
Dan, how are you going to bring tubing into this?
What dessert goes with tubing? Maybe that's my lead.
Every dessert.
Every dessert.
A donut goes with tubing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good work. I went to Punk Doily recently. You know what Punk Doily is, don't you? Claire, you don't know what Punk Doily is, but it's an Australian guy in Tokyo who makes meat pies.
Shout out to Kif.
Shout out to Kif at Punk Doily. He makes incredible meat pies. He also stocks New Zealand and Australian craft beer as well at his place. He does coffee too and other things, but he also does desserts. And I went to his shop on Saturday. We got there a bit late, and if you get there a bit late, you're not guaranteed to get anything because the man sells out. But there was one pie left, which I ate. And since there was only one pie and I wanted two, I also got a dessert, and he makes pavlova. And I thought pavlova would go really well with this because it has a lot of sweetness to it, and it has some fruit on it as well. But the fruit, I feel like, is complementary to the yuzu. Like, the yuzu is kind of a sharp and strident fruit flavor, and the pavlova was sweet and fruity, but without that kind of strident note. So I thought it would complement the fruitiness of the beer without overshadowing what the beer is trying to do. So I would go back to Punk Doily, have 2 meat pies and a pavlova, and this beer.
And what would your activity be after you had finished doing all of that gluttony?
I mean, tubing is probably like, because you don't have to do anything when you're tubing, right?
Yep.
You just sit there.
You can just roll the tube around, get in it, and
Just
then
send it down the river, end
river.
up where you end up.
Claire, you were saying earlier that part of what you try to do is to make beer accessible to people who might not otherwise be into it.
Yeah, part of my brand is making beer friendly and approachable, introducing breweries to people that are ADA accessible, that are just accessible in a lot of different means. Either for women, it's welcoming and inclusive. There could be a changing table in the women's dressing room and in the women's bathroom. If there's not, these are things that I take note on, ADA compliance being one of the biggest ones. But part of my brand is just making beer, either the descriptions being friendly and approachable, or just writing about breweries themselves, what kind of accommodations they have to make themselves welcoming and inclusive to everyone.
Nice.
Would you say that this beer would be a good choice for somebody who's new to craft beer?
Yes, I would say it's a good choice for someone who's just getting into the beer scene. If you're someone who's more of a, I would say avoidant of like sour foods or candies, probably not as much. But there are a ton of other beers from BBC that I would be more than happy to recommend. But it is definitely, BBC's definitely a brewery that can help people get into the scene itself.
Yeah, definitely. We have quite a lot of people who come in here who don't have a lot of craft beer experience. And often the thing they ask for is something that's easy to drink. Nomiyasui, right? They want something that's not going to completely blow their palate out. And I do often suggest a sour to them. I mean, like, it's fruity, it's not bitter, it's sour like a fruit juice. And not everybody wants to choose that, but it's something that a lot of people who have never tried craft beer before won't have experienced. Like this kind of sour alcoholic drink. And you can see them, a light going on in their head, right? Craft beer is not just super bitter IPAs. There is stuff that is available to me as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that will come into the brewery and say, hey, I don't like to drink beer. And we'll be like, what do you like? Are you a tequila soda kind of gal? Because, maybe try our Kolsch. Oh, you're someone who likes rosés and white wine? Then you might like our sours. You're someone who likes whiskey? Maybe we'll try a barley wine. Like, you try to introduce things based on the alcohol that these people are already comfortable with. which is super important. Being able to pair a beer with an alcohol style and then introduce from there. If someone really likes whiskey or bourbon, a Kentucky Common might be, the route for them. But that's what we try to do.
What are the steps, would you say, are the most important for making a brewery space or a bar accessible and welcoming to all?
I would say it starts with the staff more than anything else. It starts with how the staff treats people and how the staff, if a couple walks in, not automatically introducing yourself to the man or asking the man what you're ordering. Looking people directly in the eyes as you're communicating with them. If someone who comes in who has more of a handicap accessibility-wise, running to the door and holding the door open for them so they automatically feel welcome in the space to begin with. If someone has a family, obviously you would like the children to sit at the table, but not being rude to when children run around or anything of that sort, because not every brewery, wants to be a family environment, but you want to be inclusive to everyone because those parents will come back and those children will grow up and you want them to come back to the brewery one day themselves. Sure. So I think it's just about the staff and how not even the brewery as an atmosphere, just how the staff treats individuals is kind of the root of it all.
I think generally in Japan there is a culture of, they call it selfless hospitality, omotenashi, right, which is very welcoming to people who fit the mold of what the business thinks the customers should be like, but perhaps is less flexible to people whose needs are different from the standard customer model. I mean, you've only been here for 24 hours so far, but what has been your experience of Japanese hospitality?
I've only really, I can't, I guess, give a full-fledged answer to this. The only hospitality I've seen has been in museums and such, and it was in Yokohama, so not really seeing a ton of people. Wasn't as crowded as, Center Tokyo would be, so I wasn't speaking with a lot of people who spoke English to begin with. But anyone who does speak English was way more excited to, come up with me and say hi and get me anything I needed, I think because not many people experience English speakers as regular as they do Japanese speakers. So I think when someone who actually is practicing English or learning English gets to speak to someone who actually is a fluent speaker, it's exciting, but I don't have a full-fledged answer because I've only been here, 24 hours. So my hospitality, it's been fantastic so far. Public transportation hospitality, the way people wait online, beyond great. But in restaurants and bars itself, I haven't fully experienced that.
Well, obviously, the welcome at Sakamichi Brewing has been superlative.
Oh my God, off the charts.
Off the charts.
Our part-time staff, Hibiki, was almost in tears upon meeting you. It was really impressive. She was so excited.
Where was that level of excitement when she met us for the first time? That's what I would like to know.
It was a job interview kind of situation. So maybe she had to hold it together.
Crying and asking for our signature was a little much.
She was so excited that Claire was from New York, and neither one of us are from New York. So that's, I guess that's... Are
you saying that Wadsworth, Ohio doesn't have the same global cachet as New York? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I will not hear that.
Yeah,
I will not hear it.
It's disappointing to hear it out loud, but I guess that's how some people feel.
Not me. Not me.
Thanks, man. I trolled through your tweets.
Oh,
and
no.
your blog. It was
searching questions.
It was cursory. Yeah. Back in 1997. You recently tweeted, "Airports are a science, and I have a PhD," and there was no follow up to that.
No,
and I would like to know what the hell that means.
So airports are a science, and people who are bad at it, I do not like.
Okay.
So I was.
How are you bad at an airport?
You don't know it.
Up, man. You got to take your shoes off.
You must be good at airports then, because I don't know if you experience people who are bad at airports. There are people who you get to the front security and they're like ID and boarding pass. They're like, oh, sorry, and go to get it out of their backpack. Like that wasn't already in their hand.
It's already in hand.
She doesn't even have, they don't even. Whatever, the TSA agent doesn't have to say it. Already in their hand.
Right. Yeah.
I'm already in front of the thing, masked down, smiling, like already ready to go.
Right.
People have they're getting the little trays out. My shoes already, if I'm waiting, take them off, docks, have the little loops in the back, docks in hand, ready to go in there. Laptop, my backpack for traveling has a zipper in the back, separate compartment for the laptop. So easy, out, done. My ex-boyfriend was scared to travel with me for the first time because he knows that I just like airports are a thing. He was nervous about going through the airport with me for the first time because he didn't want to screw it up.
Right. He didn't let you down.
He didn't want to let me down. He thought that would be like, if he let me down, that it would be the end of the relationship. Which
was it?
You did say ex-boyfriend.
That was not the reason,
the
no.
only flight we ever took together.
That wasn't the reason.
You're on your own from here.
He successfully passed the airport test.
Okay.
But yeah, airports are a science, and even just like not having to look at your boarding pass. You look at your boarding pass once, you're done. You should be able to find your gate. You shouldn't have to constantly be checking where you're going.
Right.
Airports are a science.
Okay. How much good does all that do you, though, when other people are so terrible at it?
I mostly travel alone.
Right,
Like,
but I mean, you're in line behind other people that like don't know that they're taking their shoes off. And
yeah, no, I get a little frustrated. I don't vocalize it, and I don't show any action. I don't cross my hands and like tap my foot or anything like that. But
Maybe
I just don't. I should. I just sometimes just don't understand. Like you came to an airport, you knew what you were doing. It's like if you're ordering fast food, you get to the front of the line. That's not when you decide what you're ordering. You decide that when you're walking up. You decided when you were driving to McDonald's what you were going to get. That's not. It blows my mind. But I do have a PhD.
Okay.
When you get to the airport, it's only when you get to the departures gate then you look at the board and decide where you want to go. Oh, a flight! Yes, where am I going?
You also stated a position. I did read this blog post that you can't wear a brewery shirt to the brewery.
Yes, I'm very against that.
That brewery shirt to that brewery. You cannot
wear. Yeah, so I work at Sakamichi Brewery, and we are required to wear pizza brewery merchandise while we're on the shift.
Right.
If I was coming to drink with my friends, I would never wear the shirt. Work there or not. When I go to visit other breweries, I have probably 150 plus brewery shirts. I have so many. I love them. Every brewery I go to, I get a shirt, whatever it is. I would never wear that said brewery shirt to the brewery. You look like a member of the staff. You look like an overexcited fangirl, which you're already there. Everyone knows you're a fan. You don't need to advertise it. But this is something I strongly believe in, and concerts too. I don't think you should wear the band's merchandise to their show unless the shirt is at least 10 years old, because then it shows that you're a true fan, or it's like the Jonas Brothers or One Direction.
I wore a Radiohead shirt to a Radiohead concert once, and they actually stopped performing when they spotted me in the audience. They threw me out.
So you get out.
Yeah, that guy right there.
You loser.
Get out. Everyone point and laugh.
It's an interesting thing because that's generally accepted in America, that you don't wear the band's shirt to their show. But in Japan, if you go to a show, tons of people wear the shirts of the band. It's much more the thing to do.
People also do that to the breweries?
Yeah.
Would people wear brewery
People
merch?
come in here wearing Sakamichi Brewing t-shirts all the time, and we love it. We love it.
You want to show you're a cut above, you know? You want extra good service.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, but that is something I feel strong on. You did a deep dive. I love it.
If somebody did show up to your brewery wearing some official merch, would you throw them out?
They do a lot, actually, more than any other brewery. So I've worked in other breweries before. And the brewery I'm currently at, people wear the merchandise more than anywhere else. But our merchandise also is more of like a lifestyle brand. It's more like the name Tiny and something really cool on the back than it is like brewery merchandise itself.
There's like the slogan, it's actually good, applies to people, a lot of people as well.
I feel like I get
that
good.
Reaction from people quite often.
Yeah, we have more of like a lifestyle brand, but still people come in. I'm like, you go into the food truck, someone's going to stop you and be like, hey, by the way, can you give me a pint of number 7? I'm like, I can't wear a brewery t-shirt to said brewery.
That's good though. You can just take their money.
Yeah, I'll be right back with that. Yeah. I occasionally do see people even walking around Tachikawa wearing Sakamichi Brewing t-shirts. And I remember the first time it ever happened, I was very excited. And I smiled and waved to the person. So they were going the other side, or the way on the crosswalk to me. They had no idea who I was. They just thought I was some crazy foreigner who was attacking them in the street.
So they did not wave back?
They did not wave back. In fact, they looked horrified by the experience.
This is maybe a slightly different thing, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm nervous to trot this out now. But we have talked in the past about encouraging people to wear Sakamichi Brewing shirts to beer festivals.
Oh, I believe in that. Yes.
Okay, all right. That's okay.
Yes.
That's like Sakamichi Army kind of stuff.
I am Joan Rivers' fashion police of all brewery expeditions.
Okay, that's good. Good to know.
Someone had to take the lead.
Who are you wearing today?
But I think you can wear the brewery merchandise to like a beer festival if they're pouring, even if they're not pouring.
Right.
It just shows that you're like an active part of the community and you're really into it.
Yeah.
I wear, to most beer festivals, other, like beer girls have merchandise lines, so I'll wear their merch to beer festivals.
Right.
Like my favorite shirt is from the Hobbyist Shop, and it's drink good beer and be a good person. And I wear that to a ton of festivals just because I feel like it's an overarching theme. It's good to live by that.
Sure.
You fill half of that down, don't you? Do you think that there's a limit to the number of brewery clothing items that that will be acceptable? Like a shirt and a hat, and a t-shirt?
It depends. Are we mixing and matching
Yeah,
breweries?
that's
Or
a
are you
good
wearing
question.
all
All
one
the
the
same.
same? Because
Right.
I'm a big
It's like a double
flannel
denim.
person, so I'll wear like a bearded iris and then like t-shirt with a flannel and like a Coney Island Brewery beanie.
Right.
Like I'll mix it up. I just have to let everyone know I drink, right? But I wouldn't wear like I just got a flannel, and, like I wouldn't wear like a brewery flannel with a brewery t-shirt and a brewery hat. That's too much.
That's like a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah.
Right. Too much denim.
Yeah.
I do wish more breweries did pants, like sweatpants. Like breweries don't do sweatpants, joggers. No, I want pants. I have so many t-shirts now. No
Right.
Pants.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
Note that
Sakamichi
down.
Brewing the trousers. Maybe some Sakamichi Brewing cycling shorts. We could really lean into that.
I was interested in getting cycling caps before, but then the yen went in the tank. And we were ordering from an American company, so that got put on the back burner. Anyway, brewery pants.
Let's look into that.
Yeah.
Brewery yoga pants. Doing yoga in a brewery and then having some beer afterwards, or even during or before, is quite a big thing now.
That's a very popular
Right.
thing.
So you
Yeah.
can
Can you
sell
wear brewery
brewery
yoga
yoga
pants to a
pants.
yoga class in the brewery?
This is getting pretty arcane.
I want to know where the line is.
I probably would not do. I just feel like you don't wear the logo to. Like I don't own a Target shirt, but I wouldn't wear Target to Target.
Fair enough.
People think you're
Unless
an
you're
employee.
trying to rob it.
Yes, that
Yes.
fair point. I just feel like there's a line, and I'm not gonna. You wouldn't wear a company's logo to their establishment. So why would you do that at a brewery?
Right. Okay.
What makes the brewery different?
It's been a fascinating deep dive into sartorial choices. Do you have any other stalker questions?
These are the things I write about.
Deep
'Cause
as I went, yeah.
there are things that I wrote that one like at least a year and a half ago, but there are things that I like just think of, and I'm like, well, I could either write 180 character tweet, or this is like a big thought. I'm gonna write a blog on it.
Yeah, let's flesh this out.
Yeah, if only if like 40 people read it, I don't care because it's funny for me to write it and put it out there, and if someone thinks about it and thinks it's funny,
Yeah.
like that's enough for me.
Dan will be reading it. Even
Yeah.
if nobody else is.
Yeah, I didn't have time to go through the entire blog, so, give me a couple days.
That is about all that we have time for this week. It's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you very much for joining us. You have a very busy, very short holiday, so we're glad you could make some time to sit down with us. If people are interested in reading more of your blog posts or seeing more of your stuff, where should they go to do that?
On Instagram, America Mond Ale. My website is Make Everyday Happy. I have a TikTok and Twitter under Clare Thomas Allen. And all of my links are kind of intertwined and connected with each other. So if you find one, you'll find them all.
Excellent. I look forward to your report on that TikTok account next time. Dan. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay safe, everyone, and we will see you again next time.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks, Claire.